Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into the 11th episode of the Daily Attorney podcast, where we talk to women all over the United States who are amazing at what they do inside and outside of the legal profession. Our guest today is the founder of the Mackay Law Firm, a litigation and business law firm located in Maryland, Miss Attorney Elizabeth D. Mackay. Elizabeth has a very diverse background involving litigation and business experience. She has served at the highest level as in-house corporate counsel, general counsel, and has even litigated cases from small businesses to huge Fortune 500 companies. She is an honors graduate of Howard University and Tulane University School of Law, and she is licensed to practice in Louisiana and Maryland. Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining us today. I can only imagine how insane your week has been, especially since yesterday we had some, really, really hilarious tech difficulties. But thank you again for just, resetting your calendar on such short notice to be here with us today.
No, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. Trust me, it is definitely our pleasure. People don't usually hear, what we talk about backstage. And, you brought up some really cool things because I wanted to know how in the world did you go from, Maryland to a license in Louisiana? Because they're a few states apart. So can you kind of just take us through that journey of what happened and how did you even get there?
Okay. Actually, I think I was the first Howard University graduate to go to Tulane Law School. And I didn't realize my grades were so well, but I ended up getting a full scholarship to Tulane. And so my father being from Louisiana, I went there and I did the common law tract instead of the Louisiana tract because I thought I would leave and go to Texas. But I was a military brat. I didn't have a lot of roots anywhere. So I ended up staying in Louisiana. I took the Louisiana bar and I clerked for on the appeals court in criminal. And that's how I knew I didn't want to do criminal law. And then from there, I went to a litigation firm in Louisiana that really set me on the path to becoming a really good litigator because I tried my first case my first year there by myself in federal court. So I learned a lot of good litigation skills from that first opportunity. And then I came up to Maryland. I think I was recruited up there by a small firm, but had really great clients like FedEx and Burger King. And that's how I ended up getting an inroad into to representing those companies by myself when I started my own law firm.
That's it's quite an accomplishment to have, FedEx and Burger King, as your clients. I can only imagine there's so many little golden nuggets that, I want to talk about. I know backstage we were talking about how you only went through 2 years of high school, which is crazy, right? That's a bit insane. And I know you also, as you stated, were a military brat. So how did being a military brat affect, your high school academics?
Okay. My father was stationed, he was in the Air Force, and we were stationed in Iran. And we got there right before all the turmoil with the revolution and all. So sophomore year, I was in Iran. And then I started my junior year, but we were under martial law, so we barely went to school. Then when it got too rough, I got sent to Louisiana. I stayed there for a few months. And then we ended up getting to our permanent duty station was in California. So by the time I got out there wasn't much left of the school year. And by that time, the superintendent of the high school was an embassy hostage. And so he couldn't verify, our records couldn't be verified. So my brother and I just basically sat down and told him what classes we had taken and what we hadn't taken. And mine was so messed up. I mean, he was easy. He was straight A, so no problem. But for me, it was a little varied. So I ended up just doing one semester in my senior year and graduating early. So I wanted to be a veterinarian. But when I went to Howard, I went to one chemistry class and they covered everything I knew in the first 15 minutes. And when I asked the professor, I said, you're moving awful fast. He says, no, this was a review. He said, if any of this was new for you, you should probably, send in a withdrawal slip. So that's how I knew I wasn't going to be able to go to veterinarian school. So I did political science, and the law was just the next degree.
That's funny. I think chemistry is a huge topic. I remember taking chemistry in high school. And I couldn't understand why there were letters and numbers on the same graph.
Imagine my confusion.
I know. It's funny. I still look at the periodic table and I'm just like, oh, flashbacks. And in the law areas that we're in, we just don't use that, So, but it was, that brings up a lot of really, really cool high school memories. Speaking of which, did you have, by the time you graduated, were you able to go to prom and have your first dance and do all that? Really?
No. And I understand. I'm probably one of the few people that understand what the kids are going through now that didn't get to do that with COVID. Because by the time I ended up out there in California, I got there in time for prom and everything, but I didn't know anybody. Nobody knew me. And when I got to my senior year, I just was taking electives because I figured, why make it harder than it had to be? So I was just taking a bunch of elective classes. Yeah. And so I think I even ended up, we left and I went up to DC, but no, I mean, somebody sent me a senior memory book. I have nothing in it.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't do prom or any of those things.
Now, as a military brat, especially being stationed in Iran and just all the different places, do you feel as though that has given you kind of an affinity or a knowledge for other cultures? So when clients come to you, you can better resonate and connect with them.
Yeah, it actually helps a lot because, I mean, one of the social skills you get from being a military brat is that you tend to make friends pretty easily. And I've had clients who, that were Muslim and they appreciated the fact that I actually had lived in a Muslim country. I've actually had Iranians as clients. And then living in Texas, you have such a large Spanish-speaking community that, having that background and a little bit of language skills in Spanish helps as well. So it's a good conversation starter. People talk about where they lived, and I've either visited there or lived there, and we usually end up having a pretty good rapport.
Yeah, I love that. I can imagine how it makes clients, comfortable. When you have some level of knowledge, or even if you're just willing to learn about their backgrounds, because our backgrounds ultimately not only make us unique, but it makes, like you said, good conversation starters to get to know people a little bit more. Now, I know you went to Howard University. How was it attending, a historically Black college?
I gotta say, I needed to go to Howard University after all of the places that I had lived. Back when I was coming through, there weren't a lot of African Americans on Air Force military bases. And so
Teresa said, you?
Yeah, she probably was saying, yeah, there wasn't, she made me lose my train of thought. No, Howard University, actually, I ended up going there because when we were in California, one of our relatives took us by where the Watts riot started. And he said, that's the corner where the Watts riot. And I was like, what Watts riot? No idea. In the military schools, we didn't cover the civil rights struggle or anything. In fact, we kind of stopped after World War II. Yes. I don't think they wanted us going home asking our fathers about Vietnam. Yeah. My father was there. So I didn't know anything about it. So I said, well, I guess I should look at some, Black colleges. And Howard was the best. So I went up there and I really learned a lot about what it what my own, because any class at Howard, you get Black history or African history. So I learned a lot, and it grounded me, so now I have that experience to take through, out into other areas. It's just a great place to learn about yourself. And, you're just in a little protective cocoon for 4 years.
Very much so. Very much so. And, academic education and real life education, has a tendency to kind of shake you out of that cocoon and make you realize that, oh, okay, there's a lot more to know than this little bubble that I've been living in, for such a long time. When you talk about Black history, I mean, I went to, your dogs are having a good old time today.
They want to make sure they're both on. I mean, Max, the Belgian Malinois, is the deeper one, and
you have a Malinois. That is a huge dog.
He's actually the chillest disposition of a Belgian Malinois you could find. He's from a long line of show dogs, and so he's very chill. But the breed, they're nuts. Okay.
Yeah, I'm more of a teacup 2-pound dog person. I want to be able to just walk around with you in my arm. That's how I am. Yeah. The bigger the scarier. But when I was in undergrad, I kind of had the same experience, but on the religion aspect. I went to St. Francis College in Brooklyn, New York, and I had a class, Women in Religion. And that was huge. It, like you said, it just opens up your mind, and you realize, oh, it's not just Christianity, it's not just Catholicism, and it's all these others that are just so very different, right? In how they treat women and how they treat brown women, for many areas. So let's move on to your appeals criminal background. Like, what did what prompted you to go that route?
Well, I when I was in law school, I clerked at a lot of really, really large law firms. Okay. And I knew I didn't want to do that. I mean, there was just no work balance, life balance. So I figured going into the to the criminal appeals, the Court of Appeals, would actually, provide me with a writing background. And then it also, the thing I didn't even factor in, but the appellate judges that were there, they had 2 that were based at the part of the state where I was, and I got to actually interact with them. And coming straight from law school to go straight to an appellate court judge, and I'm arguing with this judge about these opinions, that really helped. And then it also taught me that I just didn't have the stomach for criminal law.
I learned that in constitutional law. I didn't have to graduate law school to realize that. I learned that. I was reading those cases and I was like, this is not my cup of tea. Con law, con crim pro, it just, criminal law, it just wasn't, it didn't make sense to me. So some people can do it, and bless their hearts. But there's some other people like you and I that are just, okay, we'll stay away from this, as far as, trying cases, do you still get to try many cases now that, you're doing business law?
Yeah, I'm trying to get out of doing doing litigation cases, but I'm still doing them. I mostly work with small businesses who either are sued or are suing someone. And then I represent individuals as well. There's a part of me that's always going to want to do litigation. I mean, it's just, that's the fun for me.
So you're a masochist.
Yeah. I mean, the last trial I had was over Thanksgiving. It started before Thanksgiving, it went past Thanksgiving. And that was very difficult. I didn't get any turkey for Thanksgiving.
Oh,
I was in trial, but
someone owes you a turkey.
Yeah, actually being in court though, that's the reward. I like that. It's just stressful, and I'm hoping that, the businesses that I counsel, we never have to get to litigation. So I'm trying to do preventative, because that's the last thing a small business needs, is to be involved in litigation.
Yeah, it's arduous, time consuming, the discovery deadlines, everything that comes along with it, the bills and all that. I just, I do the same. I try to prevent litigation. In some cases, unfortunately, you just can't prevent it, no matter, how hard you try. But I take a preventative approach too. And for the most part, I've dodged lots of trials, but there's always one or two per year. And you're just like, why? Yeah, but I definitely understand. Why did you, decide to just open up your own law firm?
Well, I did it before, and it turned out great. So I decided that I was going to practice in Maryland, because I like the climate up here a lot better. And the last time I started my firm, I started with, the larger Fortune 500 companies, Burger Kings, the FedEx and everything. And this time I said, I'm going to try and help smaller businesses, because I don't really think a small business realizes, if they just do a little bit of planning and a little bit of consulting with an attorney at the beginning of their journey, that there won't come that interruption that is litigation, or some protracted negotiations with people where the original agreement could have been a lot clearer. Because the other factor is not just the money and the time, it takes time away from what they're actually trying to do, which is run their own business. Because every time they have to stop and talk to the attorney, or go to a deposition, or read through documents and everything, it's taking time away from what they need to be doing to keep their business afloat. So, but Maryland, there's a lot of entrepreneurs up here.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot.
Yeah, there definitely are. As far as small businesses go, I think, and please weigh in, especially because you and I are both small business owners. I think the issue that we don't realize is we actually have more time to set up and create processes at the beginning, right? Because I don't know about you, but I think my first 6 months, I might have had 2-3 clients, and so that was really the time for me to be using it. And I was doing a lot of volunteering. That's really what I was doing. But if you think about it, that's when you have a lot of time to sit down and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is how we're going to do it. But I don't think we're thinking about that, right? We're more focused on building the business and not necessarily creating processes, that would keep us from having to put out fires.
Yeah, and that's part of the curse of having your own firm. You are running a small business at the same time as you're actually, out helping clients, and it can be overwhelming at times, especially if you throw in one other project or one other thing, and then at that point you're just tearing out your hair, because you have to go out and cultivate clients. But to go out and cultivate clients or to do networking, it takes away time from actually doing the work that you need to do to survive as a business. And there's that peak where, I actually need to probably hire somebody.
Yeah.
At the point where, I can't get out and network, and, I got to keep the business going. It might actually be time to hire someone.
Yeah. And it's tough. A lot of business coaches and books and videos talk about, hiring, and it really does make sense. I think, what people don't talk about is the pitfalls of things to look for when you are hiring, right? Because it's expensive to bring somebody on. It's not cheap. And when you bring them on and they don't work out for, whatever reason, you're kind of having to, start from scratch. So I think that's another thing that, pulls away. So in your litigation practice, like, what would you say would be like the most rewarding, but also the most difficult part of being, whether it be a small business owner or just an attorney?
The most rewarding part of litigation?
Yeah, whether it's litigation or helping small business owners.
It's winning. I'm very competitive.
I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. I'm just going to say winning. I want to win.
I want to win. I don't like to lose. I sometimes push myself a lot harder than I have to because I do not like to lose. And my clients get the benefit of that because that's why litigation is so stressful to me, because I will do whatever it takes, however many hours it takes, but I don't want to lose.
I hear that.
So that's rewarding for me when I actually get to the end of the line. And usually, you get pretty good results because you don't usually try cases that you don't think you can win.
That is true.
Yeah. So when people say, how often do you lose? It's like, I don't lose a lot because, I make sure the case is in a posture where we can possibly, win if we get that far.
Yeah. So, I'm all about hugging it out. Like, let's hug it out. Yes. Let's just everyone apologize to each other and let's figure out how to make this work. And some clients don't like that because they're like, well, they did this. And I'm like, yeah, but you're giving that person power over you. Let it go.
Yeah. And I tell people that all the time. I probably talk maybe 8 of 10 people who call me and want to sue somebody. I usually talk 8 of them down because you're right. It takes a toll on your life. Especially if it's something that, you really are upset about, then every time, you're just constantly reminded it's going to stay in your life for like a year and a half. And sometimes the reward is not worth that journey.
Oh my God. It's like you were literally sitting in on a call I had the other day. I told the potential client the exact same thing. I said, I get where you're, and this is a federal case. I've taken only one federal case. I don't like federal cases. The calendar is a beast and I don't want to have to deal with that. And we ended up settling. My client was happy, thankfully. But this person had the same type of situation. I said, listen, I know where it's headed. So I'm telling you now, take the lessons. I'm all about taking lessons that you learn from something, not giving it power over you, and just being okay with what happened. And so you can move on and hopefully not do it again. But like you say, when people call you, they just want to fight. They don't care about, they're not trying to hear you be Socrates over the phone. They just want what they want. And a majority of those cases are just not for me. I don't like fighting, which is why litigation is just not my thing. It's funny though, because I do it in the estate administration. I love it there because it's so straightforward. The calendar is not arduous. You file a petition, you know what you're going in there for, and I can prepare. So it's not months of preparation like it is for regular cases. Are you still in federal court for some of these cases?
I don't do a lot in federal court. When I started off, I used to do a lot of ERISA. And, I've got a couple of ERISA cases that are in the pipeline, but so far we haven't, filed anything in federal court. I started off in federal court doing the ERISA, and I really did like that because the statute skewed towards the defense. And I was representing insurance. I was representing insurance defense clients at that time.
ERISA is difficult work, though. It's a difficult body of law, I think.
It is. But, that's one of the things where you say rewarding, when someone's got a serious disability and their insurance company, that's the other part is I was general counsel for an insurance commissioner for a while. And I learned that insurance companies pay a lot more attention to what the insurance commissioner has to say, or when you file a complaint that way, than they do if you file a lawsuit against them. because the regulators can really hurt.
Mm.
And, you know, the way they do some of the people with the disabilities determinations and just yanking them off disability, it just doesn't make any sense. And I think it's gone too far.
There's no like ease. There's no easing into it. Mm-mm. It's out.
Yeah. It's tough.
It is tough. And I think it's tough because it's someone, you know, behind a desk who is doing things remotely. And they're not necessarily, because I think it would be harder to yank benefits from someone if you have to bring them in and explain why you're yanking benefits.
Exactly.
Because you're putting a human face.
You're putting a face on it. Yeah, that's something that I hadn't thought about. But now that, you know, we're doing most of my clients that my new clients, I've never seen them. Not in person in the office. You know, we talk on the phone or we do a Zoom. And, you know, they're paying me and I'm doing all this work, but we've never had a chance to sit down and like you used to back in the olden days, you know, you had to take your client to lunch and, you know, go out and have coffee with them and get to know them. Now it's all over the phone.
Yeah. Do you miss being in person with your clients?
Not really, because, you know, I told you I'm kind of obsessive when it comes to not wanting to lose. And so even when I was, you know, going to the office all the time, once I get on a case, I got kind of a one-track mind.
Oh, so you don't want anything to kind of distract you from that.
So being around people and stuff. I miss, you know, being able to walk down the hall and talk to an attorney about, you know, a case or just shoot the breeze. But for the most part, I'm a solitary worker.
Okay.
So the COVID really didn't bother me at all. It's I love the social distancing. We can keep that. Yeah. Don't like the mask, but the social distancing, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I don't mind. I come here, I go home. That's kind of, you know, and I go on a vacation per quarter. That's when I make up for all the times I'm not around people. But like you, well, I actually have a suite of attorneys here that, you know, I walk around and I ask, hey, I have this crazy, you know, case. Can you help me out? Because it's always nice to, you know, kind of have someone who knows a little bit more or a lot more than you do to kind of like bounce ideas on. But I'm not a fan of working from home. I do it out of just necessity if I need to catch up, but I actually like my safe space here. It's just what I prefer.
Well, you know, my internet issues with the office. So
yeah, what in the world? I was like, what is going on? It was funny because we're talking and I was talking to my producer. I'm like, I don't think she can hear me. It's either she's hearing me and she's ignoring me. Because you were looking at us, but you couldn't, you know, hear us. And it was just very delayed. I didn't want to go live. And then all of a sudden people are like, is there something wrong with this audio? Is it not working? So I was like, we can just redo it. It's okay. We get do-overs. It's the wonderful thing about life is we always get a do-over. Speaking of life, what impact do you hope to have on, you know, your community and your clients with the work that you do?
Well, I really, really am invested in the success of small business. And, you know, kind of, you know, near and dear my heart. I love minority-owned businesses too. And I try to get those people on as even keel or equal footing as I would have with the large corporate clients. I kind of treat all of the small businesses like they're Fortune 500 companies. You know, they get the immediate call back. They can call me outside office hours. And I'm trying to create, you know, strong minority-owned businesses and other businesses too, so that they can lift up the entire community by, you know, investing back into their communities. Because most of the minority-owned businesses are in minority communities. or a lot of them are. And
Yeah.
it's a cycle of success when people can actually see, the little shop is getting bigger and expanding and everything. I think it brings a little hope to the people who are starting out.
Yeah. And just seeing people, different ethnicities doing, very different things that positively impact not only themselves, the community, their families, I think is inspiring, which is why, I wanted to create the show, because I feel like, a lot of people could benefit to see that, even though we're less than 10% of this legal profession, we're doing amazing things, and we're extremely smart and dedicated. We care about our clients as if we were Fortune 500 companies.
Exactly.
So thank you on that note. Thank you for, being here and just spending some time with us. If clients want to reach out to you, like, how can they best contact you?
Probably by going to the website.
Okay.
www.emackaylaw.com. That's probably the easiest way. And then they have a way to email me from the website.
Okay. So you have a contact form on there?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Do you have a phone number that?
240-334-6168. And my assistant, Jonathan Bird, is there to help set up appointments and get them in the system.
Okay. Was it the same John Bird that you gave that signed into the studio yesterday?
I think that John Bird was my brother, but Jonathan Bird is my nephew. And I got to tell you, having a deep voice, a young man answering the phones has really helped my female clientele come on board. They love talking to him.
Like, let me go in there and see what Elizabeth is doing really quickly. Well, that is awesome. Yeah, he kept coming on and I kept kicking him off. I'm like, at a point, I was like, let me just add him on. I'm like, hey, John, you're not supposed to be here. Click.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I do.
That was awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for the laughter. We're wrapping up season 11. I love doing this show. I'm nervous. I get a little tiny less nervous each time, but I love doing it. I love talking to, minority business owners, women of color who are just doing very, very different things and just, kicking butt. So thank you so much for that. We will be sending you, some email follow-ups. And I don't usually say this, but we're going to send you a soundbite that says, I like to win. Because that was hilarious. She was like, I like to win. That's it. Like, that's it. On my website. Please, I love to win. Like, that is your new tagline. So you heard it first. She likes to win, and she treats small business clients like they are Fortune 500 clients. Because you never know, one day we will be. So with that said, please catch this episode and other lovely episodes where we talk to other women of color and just other women in general who are women kicking ass, but who just happen to be attorneys. You can catch us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and I think you'll even see my face on TikTok. Elizabeth, thank you so much for spending episode 11 with us. I hope to see you again in the future, especially since we're in the same state.
Yes, that would be great. And thank you for having me.
Same here. It was our pleasure. Thank you, everyone. My name is Marie Yves, Nadine Jean Baptiste, CEO and owner of the St. Yves Law Firm. Have a great day, everyone.